in charge. Okay, so then welcome to Tuesday, November 29th. Your question of the day says, how can we use fossils to date the layers of the earth? At this time, we should be well seasoned into what is the expectation for Mrs. McGrain's class on a daily basis. If you need a pencil, right up front. If you need paper, right up front. Do you need a notebook, young man? Okay. Our agenda. Capture question, and then I'm going to check how old is the earth. You had a reading last night and like 4 questions to answer. Then we're going to go ahead and do relative dating. We're going to continue that a little bit more, but this time without fossils. We're going to be looking at how we can tell the ages of the layers of the earth without using fossils. We're going to take some notes comparing relative data and absolute dating. I want to let you, remind you that if you have labs that you have missed, because we've already had 2 this year, please make sure you get yourself in during Liberty Time. If Fires reading is today, right after this class, but Liberty Time is tomorrow, you can come in. I still have them set up, but I am not going to hold on to those materials, especially those chemicals we used, for much longer. Okay. If you have not handed in your density lab, make sure that you get your density lab handed in to me. I collected that yesterday. I am almost done grading period 5, but please make sure that you get that in. It looked like this. I'll hide this person's name. The density lab looks like this. All right, so I'm now going to be quiet, which is difficult for me, but I'm going to do it. I'm going to be quiet for 1 minute. That'll give you an opportunity to go ahead and write down the daily question and get your ideas on paper, and then I can go ahead and take attendance. Nice to have you back, Ashton. I missed you. You sure we're going in? All right, there is our time. So let's go ahead and share out. If we are going to use fossils to date the layers of the earth, how do we do that? Kyra, would you mind moving that just this way a little bit so you can see me? Alexi, get us started.
So let's say, the age of the fossil.
Good, let's stop there. That's the first thing we have to know is the age of the fossil. Nice job. So we have to establish the age of the fossil. Establish the age of the fossilized organism. And I'll come back to you in just a second. So we have to establish the age of the fossilized organism. This is called the index fossil. All right, I'm going to give us an example of an index fossil. And let's imagine that we are going to use ceratites. We used ceratites yesterday in our lab, ceratites. Ceratites are, or were on the planet from 300 million years ago to 100 million years ago. So they were on the planet for just a short period of time, only 200 million years, which seems like a lot, but in geologic time, that's like a short time. So you establish the age of the fossilized organism. In our example here, it would be ceratites, okay? Now, the second thing you do is what, Alexi?
Where you can see which layer that fossil is.
Yeah, let's go ahead and pretend that this is an outcrop. Okay, you will see that these columns are going to be called outcrops, or they will be called columns. And you'll be looking at a kind of like segmented section of the earth. And these will then have layers in them. So imagine if you are looking at this outcrop and you see this layer right here has a bunch of ceratite fossils in it. what then can we say is the age of that layer? Turn with your pair share partner and talk that out. What do we think? If I'm looking and I don't see any ceratites here, no ceratites here, no ceratites here, but this layer's got a whole bunch of ceratites in them, I can assume that that layer is how old? 300 million years ago to 100 million years ago. I don't know much more than that, but I know that it's at least, not at least anything. I know it's between that age time. So it would be between 300 million years to 100 million years would be the age that layer was created on Earth. How do I know that? Because I know that there are ceratite fossils in there. I know ceratite fossils only live during this time period. So the first thing, as Alexi said, establish the age of the fossilized organism. The second thing is then use that or find, if you find that fossil in a layer, you can assume the age of the layer. You can assume the age of the layer is the same, right, that ceratite fossil lived. Maybe it's 280 million years, we don't know. Maybe it's 200 million years, we don't know. But we know it's between 300 million years and 100 million years old. Why? Because we know this organism lived during that time period, and we see lots of them in that layer. That's what we did yesterday. How's that feel? A little bit better after what we did yesterday to kind of shore that up a little? So that's how we can use fossils to date the Earth, or layers of the Earth. But what if you don't have fossils? We're going to use something a little bit more called relative dating today. And if you replace the word relative with compared to or comparative, it's the same thing. It'd be like if I stand next to Alexi, and I'm like, okay, look at both of us, which one's older? Do you have to know our exact ages to figure out which one's older and which one's younger? No, we're just comparing ourselves, right? I'm older relative to you, or I'm older compared to you. But you don't need my exact date. If you got my exact date, that's called absolute dating. You know absolutely how old I am. And we use radiometric dating for that. You look at how I'm decaying. Okay? So relative dating is like the best. It's like, yeah, it looks about this, this one's younger, this one's older. It's like a big jigsaw puzzle that we're going to be putting together today. All right, so that's what we're going to be doing today. I want to first check how old is the Earth. You have a little reading. If you could please get that out, I'd greatly appreciate it. For those of you that were not in here earlier, I want to let you know that I'm almost done grading your density lab. Some of them are at a high school level. Some of them truly are not, but that is okay. I'm going to read to you what an A looks like tomorrow, and then you have the opportunity, if you would like to go ahead and redo that write-up. But right now, could you please get out your lab from yesterday? I'm going to check to see if you did the reading portion of it. It's the last page of it. Good job. Good job. Nope. Oh, yeah, you're here. Oh, sad. I'll come back. Who are you going to say? Good luck today. When do you leave? Is it a long drive?
Yeah, 45 minutes. We should do it.
Okay. That's okay. You know what? Remind yourself a different way today so that you don't forget. A whole slice there. Do you have yours? Do you have yours? No problems? Yes? No? No? Yes? Okay? No? Fine? Okay? Good? All right, my little ones. Yes, sorry about that. Thank you very much. All right. So we checked that. Now the next thing we're gonna do is I need you to, let's update our TOC a little bit. Let's update our table of contents, because last we were together, my pen wasn't working, but guess what? It gave me a brand new pen, and I'm very excited about this. So I know that we were together on 11, look at that, I don't have to hit it or anything. 11:21 we had something, then on 11:22 we had something. Then yesterday was 11:28, and we had the lab. And the lab that we did yesterday was like, how old are layers of the earth or something like that? How old are layers? And then 11:22, because I know that Ashton wasn't here, so we'll get him caught up. What was 11:22? Our density lab? Lab on density. This way, next time I pull it up, it'll be here. And then on 11:21, we had a video handout, and that was called Birth of Earth. All right, and so this was page 3 and 4. This would have been then page 5 and 6. This was page 7 all the way to, I think this one's now 11. And so today on 11:29, we are going to have a worksheet that we're going to be doing to introduce ourselves to the principles of geology, and this is called relative dating. This is going to be a you work alone on part of this, and then we are going to come back together at the end of class, and we are going to do some note taking on what is the difference between relative dating versus absolute dating. So this is relative versus absolute. And you are already familiar with absolute dating with our radioactive. So relative dating is going to be 11:12, so then this one will be 13. I feel good about that. Sorry about my messy handwriting. Do you have this table of contents, Bud? They're right here. You can grab anything that you want. Hey, there's one plus. Right here. I thought I handed every single one of these to you. Did you look through these?
No.
Oh, here you go. All right, so Dahlia, we are just updating our table of contents with today's material. Nevaeh can help you with that. We've got this line and then this line. Did you pick them up on the way in? You went and got on the way in? Like right here, kiddo, when we walked in. I don't know if you got these. So I'm gonna go ahead and give these to you. No problems. What's up? Yeah, you can use the restroom. You okay? Yeah. All right. And I want to remind everybody that I am recording today's lesson so that anybody that is not here can go ahead and watch this at home. I'm going to move away from this now, Nevaeh. Are we good? You can help, okay, Dahlia out. All right, great. So the first thing I'm going to do is bring you here, and this is what we're doing. We're introducing ourselves to these basic principles of geology. Now, I would recommend studying geology in college for everybody. It is a great profession, and it's great. It's kind of like looking at layers or pages in a book when you are studying the layers of Earth. If you like being outside, if you like, traveling to different areas, if you like studying the Earth, geology is for you. Early geologists had no way of determining the absolute age of a geologic material. Geologic just means like of the Earth, okay, rocks, land. If they did not see it form, then they could not know if a rock was 100 years old or 100 million years old. That what they could do was determine the age of materials relative or compared to each other. Using sensible principles that you are going to learn about today, they could say whether one rock was older than the other, like when I was comparing myself to Alexi, and when a process occurred relative to those rocks. What I mean by this last sentence, a process occurred relative to those rocks, meaning if there was an earthquake that maybe shifted the rocks a little bit, okay? If there was rocks laid down and then all of a sudden you see a big crack in the rock, you know probably the earthquake happened after the rock was already formed. All right. You are going to learn about basic principles of relative age relationships by watching this video. And as you watch it, you're going to be learning and writing down what is the definition of principles of superposition, principles of original horizontality. And then the person on that video is going to be giving you examples that you're going to be looking at and helping you practice noticing or recognizing when these principles are at play. So that's going to be the first thing that you're going to be doing. All right. After you do that, you're going to then have your own practice. So, for example, you're going to choose which principle or principles from above are going to describe the formations that I give you in each picture. In this case, we see layers of rock, but what has happened to the layers of rock? Looks like they're kind of like deformed. They've been squashed or something. They're no longer horizontal. And so this is going to be the principle of original horizontality has been at play here, which means that rock layers should be deposited flat. But in this case, they're not. So something had to happen to change that. I'll go ahead and talk about this, but what you're going to do is, for example number 2, you would look at which one of these principles is interacting or is changing this example, and then you're going to tell me which one happened first, second, or third. When you have all of these letters down here, you're going to say, I think letter E was first, and then D was second, and then F was third, right? Just tell me in order when the events happened. But we'll practice on that. So that's going to be number 1. So in order for you to do that, you're going to need about 15 minutes. I'm going to try to give you 15, but I also need 15 minutes at the end of the class to give you notes on this. So if we get out at 39, that's 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30. Okay, so I'm going to give you until 10, 15, until 25 after. So you have until 25 after to work on this. This is you working alone, so you need your Chromebook. You're going to be watching the video. I'll show you where I've linked that video for you. So you need your Chromebook. So everybody at this time should be getting out their Chromebooks. And if you look at our website, our Canvas page, you will see under today's date, here's our handout. Here's the video link for the handout. So this is going to be what you're going to watch. You have to listen to him, so there's headphones over here. If you don't have your own AirPods, you can go ahead and get one of my headphones. If you need to plug in, you can go back and plug in. But that's going to be the first part. I'm going to put 15 minutes on the clock, and then after 15 minutes, I'm going to ask us to kind of all come together again. Okay? You understand? First 15 minutes is yours, and the second 15 minutes I need to take some notes with you. If you don't finish in the first 15 minutes, that's okay. Then what you can do is just know that you're going to go back to that for homework tonight. Absolutely, Allie. But just hustle up. While you're doing that, I'm going to go ahead and continue or actually finish grading your labs. What? Oh. I do not have a charger. It looks like somebody has, oh, I do have a charger. Absolutely. If you could wrap it up and just give it back to me at the end of class, I'd appreciate that.
What do you want me to do?
We're just let it go. People can kind of like fast forward because we'll need to have it for the end part. So again, you are watching the video and you are answering or filling in what those basic principles of geology are. I'm getting some practice with them on the video. And I'm grading. Yes, ma'am. since we are out of time now for that portion of it, let's go ahead and walk through the very first problem that we have down here on the back, just really quickly, so that you know how to do that portion. Yeah. So let's go ahead and walk through this first one on the back, right here. Number 2, because this is something that you should have been able to do after learning about all of those principles of geology. So, what do you think out of these, which one or ones do we want to include? Yep, give me one. Absolutely. Principles of cross-cutting relationships, you would definitely circle that, because we've got this intrusion. It is cutting across these layers. That's why it's called cross-cutting relations. If you see this, that principle is being applied. What else? What other one that you learned about could we apply here? Yeah.
Could it be principle of superstition?
Yeah, superposition. Principles of superposition, where it says the older layers are down below, so this is older, and the younger layers are up above. Absolutely. This one counts too in here. We can see that being applied. What else? Yep.
Principle of original horizontality.
Yeah, principle of original horizontality, which says that layers are going to be put down in a horizontal fashion. Great, so all 3 of those apply here. What do you think was the order of events? What was the very first letter that we would say is number 1? Everybody should have your paper in front of you. I'm scared to death that some of you don't. Yeah, what's the first one, Alexi? I would say B would be the first one also. B, because it is on the very bottom, it's the oldest one. That is going to be the first. Then what's the next thing that happened here? Yep.
C.
C was laid on top of that. That's that principle of superposition. Then what's the next thing that happened here? No, not you. Not that I don't love you. What's the next thing? You have to be able to do this on your own, okay? So let's try now when we are like in a safe spot and I can support you. What's the next thing? Yep.
D.
I would say so. I would say D. And then what do you think comes next? Yep. Which one?
E.
Could be E came next on top of D, and then what's next? A. A is that cross-cutting. It cuts across B, C, and D. So we could say A. Now, would it also be correct to say B, C, D, A, E? Could that also be the correct order of events? Absolutely. Because we don't really know, did this cut in and across these layers and then this was put on top? We don't know. So either one of these is correct. Do you understand? Agni, do you know where we are? We're on the back side. You're supposed to be doing the back page of this as well. So this was the first example that I'm giving you. Awesome, you're amazing. All right, so then that's how you're going to finish this at home. Do you understand now what you're doing? Great, let's go ahead and take some notes, my darlings. Could you please get out your note sheet, please? And I am going to quickly run through these notes. This is what they look like. Relative dating versus absolute age. And we are not going through all of the different principles, unfortunately. I think next year I want to go through all the different principles, but we're just going to hit a couple of them. All right. So you have that out. I'm going to go ahead and pull, not that one, this one up. And we're going to talk about relative and absolute dating. The essential question is going to be, how can we measure the age of rocks? That's a gorgeous fossil, by the way. It's about as big as a car. Isn't that unbelievable? Like, can you imagine something that lumbering and big? Imagine how much weight this thing was carrying around, with all of those beautiful armored plates on it. I mean, look how stout the legs are to, like, hold itself up. All right. So, relative. Who's older? Out of these two people, which person is older? Obama. You don't need need to know the exact age to figure out in this picture who was born first, okay? That's relative dating, just like the example I gave with myself and Alexi. Relative age is just something, the age of something as, the relative age of something is its age in comparison with the ages of other things. Don't write anything down yet, I'll tell you what to write down. So for example, this little guy is the youngest, and then we have this person, and then this is the oldest, right? Compared to the others. Here's what I want you to write down. So, the relative, whatever I'm underlining, you're filling in the blanks. The relative age of something is its age in comparison to the ages of other things. We're filling in the blanks. Ashton, we're filling in the blanks, man. You gotta come over here, bud. We're not doing that anymore. Now we're doing this. We're doing this, bud. So the relative age of something is its age in comparison to the ages of other things. All right. The next thing we're going to go ahead and fill in is this idea of principles of superposition. And I don't have this note sheet. Yes, I do. So, principle of superposition. So fill that in undisturbed layers of rock, meaning like this, undisturbed. They're just laid down horizontally. The oldest rocks are on the bottom, and the rocks become younger as we move towards the top. So those two things I underlined is what you're filling in for the blanks. Blank. Which means that if you went to the Grand Canyon, the deeper in the Grand Canyon you go, the older back in time you go in the Earth's history. Anybody been to the Grand Canyon? Have you really? Oh, you know, does it look kind of like this, or is it one of those, you just can't really describe how it looks? Just someday. All right, that's the principle of superposition. Kyrie, if you wouldn't mind helping him fill out the first couple on here, and just show him the one that we're on. He's on the wrong page. Got it? So let's go ahead and look at your note sheet. Which one, in this picture right here, it says circle the oldest rock layer and star the youngest rock layer. So if we're talking about principle of superposition, in this example, circle the layer that's the oldest and put a star next to the one that's the youngest. In this picture, circle the one that's the oldest and put a star next to the one that's the youngest. Ramsey, you good? Out of this picture, which layer is the oldest? Do you have it in front of you? No, you don't, bud. Thank you. Yep, it's that one. Yep. Thanks, Rania. So in this little picture right here, Ramsey, which one of these layers do you think would be the oldest? Because I want to check for understanding. That's a teaching tool. Jacob, help him out. Number one would be the oldest. So you'd circle number one. And Jacob, which one of these would be the youngest? Number seven. So we'd put a star next to number 7. Now notice something has happened to uplift these rocks ever so slightly. So originally the principle of horizontality should say, hey, all of these should be horizontal, like what we see here. But something has happened to kind of like uplift and bend these rocks. All right. So another way to think about superposition, and I really hope does your bedroom look like this? Anybody? If it does, that's kind of bad. But if you think about superposition, if you wanted to figure out which clothes you wore last week versus to yesterday, where would we look for the clothes that you might have worn last week?
On the bottom.
At the bottom. That's superposition. And then the clothes that you wore like yesterday would probably be closer up to the top. Gross. All right. And since the oldest rocks are on the bottom, that means that the oldest fossils are on the bottom too. These are what's called an outcropping. You can have an outcropping or columns of rock. And we look in each one of these, sometimes these are separated by like miles and miles apart, right? Hundreds of miles. But you can tell which layer corresponds to which layer by finding like fossils within the layer. That's how they are able to match up those columns. All right. I've got something here for you. We've got column 1 or outcropping 1, and we found another column or an outcropping, let's say 50 miles away. Which two layers are approximately the same age? Because we're looking for the index fossils in them. We've got layer A, B, C, D, E, and F. Which two layers are about the same age? I hear someone say C and D. Does anybody agree that C and D would be about the same age? Yeah, I would too. Why did we say C and D? They have the same fossil. They've got this index fossil. So if you're in this layer and you see this, and then 50 to 100 miles away, you see this same index fossil in a layer, you know that those two layers were laid down during the same time period. Which layer here would be the oldest then? Okay, imagine this. If we know these are the same age, this you shift down so that they're even, and now which layer would be the same age, or the oldest layer? Jacob. A is not the oldest layer. If we shift this whole thing down so that it lines up with this, which layer is going to be on the bottom? Superposition says the bottom layer is the oldest. F. F is the oldest. Which one is the youngest? A. A would be the youngest because it's on top. That's the law of superposition. All right, that one wasn't on here. But this one is. Let's go ahead now and fill out number 3, index fossil. So this is number 3 on your note sheet. You're going to write in index. Index fossils are a species of fossil that existed on Earth for a short period of time. They were very abundant during that time so that they're easy to identify in that layer, and they're widespread geographically. So that means even if you're 100 miles away, if you get to that layer, you will be able to find that index fossil. Okay, so given that, I want you now to look at this example and tell me which is the best index fossil. If those are the requirements, which one of these, A, B, C, or D, and you have this on your worksheet too, which one would be the best? We've got outcrop 4, outcropping 3, outcropping 2, and outcropping 1. So these were 4 different locations that were looked at. With your pair share partners, which one of these would make the best index fossil? Would this make a very good index fossil? No, because it's only found in one outcropping. That's not a very good index fossil, so this one is like, no, that's not good. Would this one make a very good index fossil? It's in this layer, and this layer, and this layer. It's in this layer. It's in all the layers. Is it a good index fossil if it's in all the layers? No, because then I have no idea what the age is. It's like looking at our tooth from yesterday. If it's in every single layer and I find it, it's like, well, I don't know how old this rock layer is because it could be, from this time period all the way up to this time period. So C is not a good index fossil either. A is our best index fossil. Why is A our best? Because it's in just one layer. It's only living during this one period of time. And it's very widespread. So if you are studying rock layers and you see A, you are going to be able to know, yep, definitively how old that is. Why are we packing up?
To get out.
Less than a minute gives me a minute, y'all. Sometimes the layers aren't always horizontal. If the stack of rocks get disturbed from a fault or cross-cutting, it is always younger than the stack of rocks. Which means that if we look at these layers, we know because of the principles of superposition. All right. Hey, do me a favor, Krista.